Okay, students and friends, guests, neighbors, thanks for being here tonight. We are very excited to have Ron Dunford with us. He's been a friend of our center and our seed program for a number of years and served on our board. And Maggie will introduce him in just a minute. But we'll go ahead and start off. We have 3 books to give away, and we'd like 3 brave students to come up, tell us one thing you learned from Landon, by the way, okay? And Sid's going to go ahead and pick 3 of you. She's out in the audience. And the 3 she picks, just come on up here. Okay, come on up. Thanks for being brave. So I thought Landon was pretty interesting. Did you like Landon, by the way, last week? Pretty cool. What we try to do is show you a real wide variety of companies, sizes of companies, age of entrepreneurs, and I think that he was really interesting from the entertainment industry. So, okay, give us your name, one thing you learned from Landon, by the way.
My name is Russell Bundy, and something that I learned, he said that pressure is a privilege. And that was just something that really struck me, and I think it relates to a lot of us here at the Huntsman School.
I'm Ethan Peterson. I really liked how he said that culture really matters in a business, and as they had core principles, they were able to make tough decisions, and the emotions didn't drive their decisions, but they were able to lean on those core principles, which helped them out.
My name's Aubrey Bowers. One of the things that I liked that he said was, he said successful people don't know what they're doing, but they go out and they try it anyway. And I really liked that because you got to start somewhere. So.
Okay, awesome. Let's give him a hand. Okay, we have a brief presentation from Jesse about our seed program, and then Maggie will introduce Ron.
Thanks, Mike. Friends, it's a pleasure to be with you tonight. It's fun to see so many familiar faces and new faces. Again, my name's Jesse. The SEED program is the program at Utah State, okay? Now, I'm going to touch base on it more in a second, but we're going to let this video do the talking if it works. We'll see how it goes, and then we're going to jump into it. But I got to spend last summer in the Philippines and loved it. So let's let this video do a little talking.
So our focus here is to help small business owners better develop their businesses.
So the difference between SEED and other internship opportunities is that you get to spend a semester abroad, but at a super low cost. And so you just get to focus on giving back and having an international experience.
And I was looking for a study abroad at Utah State, and I saw the SEED program board with a bunch of different countries. So that's what caught my eye at first. Kind of like humanitarian work where you go and teach people, help them change their lives.
This opportunity is available to any student that wants to go and help people.
I'm here on the SEED internship, so we're basically teaching business classes and helping small businesses to grow.
One of my favorite things has really been connecting with the people. I've learned a lot through my studies at Utah State that although cultures, we have so many differences, we also have so many similarities. There's been some incredible moments here that have been very impactful and that I'll never forget.
The most impactful thing is just them meeting everyone. They truly are just so inspirational.
I'm also able to put what I've learned into the classroom into real life, and that's been a really cool experience. I would 1,000% recommend SEED to other interns and students.
Awesome, you guys. SEED is all about blessing and lifting people, right? The goal of the program really is to help lift people out of poverty and double their income in the semester that you're there. You are all in an entrepreneurship class where you get to learn from incredible entrepreneurs on how to succeed. And what the SEED program allows you to do is to go and teach the principles you're learning now to people in developing countries. You get to build incredible relationships, have amazing opportunities, connect with people that want and need your help. And I have built lifelong friendships through the SEED program, and it's been a blessing for me. So if you're at all interested in the program, come talk to us after. We can answer more questions. These are some of the countries that you can participate in. If you are a Spanish speaker, please come talk to us. We want to hear hear your words of wisdom in your language. But Ghana, Mexico, Philippines, Peru, and the Dominican Republic are our current locations. Some key things you need to know about the SEED program, okay? First is that you do not have to be a business major, okay? I'm actually a communication studies major as well as economics, and there's a lot of incredible business students, but they don't always know, like, how to connect with people the same way that you might, being an engineer, being a history major, being a geologist, being whatever you are, right? And so we need your individual skills, and we will teach you the things you need to know. Okay, second is it is such a subsidized program. To spend an entire semester in another country is so cheap because of the scholarships that have been provided through incredible donors. And I spent 3 months in the Philippines for less than I would have spent in rent living here. So that was pretty remarkable. Third is housing is covered by the university, and then you get to partner with incredible organizations in the countries that you go to. Whether it's Mentors International or Home Sourced Incorporated in the Philippines, wherever you go, you are there, again, to lift and to bless. So if your desire is to serve others, help people come better their lives, really, the SEED program's for you. So I want you all, really quick, pull out your phones, scan this QR code. If you like Buffalo Wild Wings and want some free wings, or if you have a friend that likes Buffalo Wild Wings, will you scan this QR code? You'll just give us like your email. You can give us a name of your friend. Next Tuesday, 4:30 to 6:30, we're doing a little info night. So you can come chat with us, ask us questions. You can apply. And if you decide you don't want to do SEED, that's fine. No harm, no foul. But we still want you there. We want to feed you wings. So again, come talk to us after. We'll be at tables outside, and we're excited to help you get involved in the SEED program. Thanks so much.
Hey guys, we're so excited to have Ron Dunford here, and so I'm just gonna quickly introduce him. He's been leading Schreiber Foods as president and CEO since 2019. Schreiber is a global food company with more than 10,000 employees located in 40 locations around the world. With sales exceeding $7 billion, Schreiber is a customer brand leader in yogurt, processed cheese, natural cheese, shelf-stable beverages, and cream cheese. Ron's journey with Schreiber began in 1996 at the Green Bay, Wisconsin headquarters. His career progression includes roles as Senior Vice President Sales, President and COO of Schreiber Chain Sales, President and COO of Operations, and President of Schreiber U.S. Business. Additionally, he has been a member of the Schreiber Foods Board of Directors since 2003. Ron is actively involved in the industry and community, serving on the boards of the Utah State University Center for Entrepreneurship, the International Dairy Foods Association, and the Innovation Center for U.S. Dairy, where he is the Food Safety Vice Chair. Ron holds a bachelor's degree in geology from Utah State University. He and his wife, Dana, are proud parents of 2 married sons and grandparents to 5 grandchildren. An avid adventurer, Ron has completed 3 Ironman triathlons, and he loves spending time in the mountains, skiing, hiking, and biking. Ron is a lifelong learner and mentor. His passion is to inspire others to dream more, do more, and become more than they ever thought possible. Join me in welcoming Ron Dunford.
All right. That's really loud, isn't it? I'm going to try down here. All right. Get the right speed. How's everybody doing? Yeah, all right. I have to ask a really important question first. Being from Green Bay, Wisconsin, any Packer fans? Go, Pack, go. All right, all right. All right, I heard a boo somewhere. Vikings. That's all right. Any Bears fans? Who said that? All right. There's always a few in the crowd, right? And I have to determine early where the friendly and where the not so friendlies are going to be, right? It's generally the Bears fans, Vikings sometimes too. It's generally the Bears fans that are the the worst. I just have to put it out there. Schreiber Foods. Let's see if this clicker will work. Click, click. Is there an on or off? All right. Show me how to work the clicker. That's right. See, it's not me. Okay, very good. Let's try that again. Okay, Schreiber Foods. This is our corporate headquarters, Green Bay, Wisconsin. I suspect some of you have heard about Schreiber Foods because we have a plant here in Cache Valley, actually a couple of plants here in Cache Valley, and you sort of read a little bit about my bio, so you've heard about Schreiber Foods that way. I'm guessing, though, you don't know everything about Schreiber Foods. So as an example, if you eat cheeseburgers, 9 out of every 10 cheeseburgers in the U.S. has our cheese on it. Doesn't matter whether it's McDonald's or In-N-Out or Wendy's or Burger King or local chains or upscale chains. If you're eating a cheeseburger in the U.S., there's a 90% chance you're eating our cheese. If you eat cheesecake at the Cheesecake Factory, you're eating our cheese, cream cheese that goes into the cheesecakes at the Cheesecake Factory. If you're buying cream cheese from a lot of different places, as long as it's not Kraft Philly brand, there's a 90% chance that it's our cream cheese. If you eat Three Greek Gods yogurt or Oikos Pro yogurt, you're eating our product. If you eat, or for your drink, Premier Protein, which is the #1 protein drink, we manufacture that as well. So you may not have heard of Schreiber Foods, but as long as you eat dairy, anything dairy, there's a high likelihood that you've eaten some of our products. We've been around for a long time. As it was said in the introduction, 10,000 of us running around the world. We're headquartered in Green Bay, but we've got locations in 40 places around the world. I try to get to every place every year, so I'm on the road a lot. I leave Sunday to go to Madrid. And in fact, someone was telling me that I think there's a group of 20 or so USU students that are going to be in Europe in March. And I think last year we hosted them. We're going to do it again this year. So they'll be at our Madrid offices here in a month for a couple of hours learning a little bit more about Schreiber Foods. We supply to 95 countries around the world, and so we get out and about quite a bit as an organization. My career journey, just real quick, started 43 years ago, actually at our Smithfield plant. I was going to school at Utah State, and I needed a job to put myself through school. So I took a job as a janitor, nighttime sanitation, and never expected to stick around, but learned along the way, if you stick around long enough, they make you the president and CEO. So it sort of works out. You got to stick around for 43 years to get there, but I've had a long sort of winding journey throughout my career, from the operations side of the business to the sales side of the business, and sort of just throughout. And I will always tell everybody, there's no right or wrong career path. I happen to stay with one company the entire time. You don't have to do that. I happen to move back and forth between operations and commercial and different sides of the business. You don't have to do that. You just have to do what's right for you. This happened to be what worked well for me. I did take an 18-month sabbatical. So 2017, 2018, I took a bit of a sabbatical. It was meant to be a retirement. It turned out to just be a sabbatical. And so I'm going to give a plug for the SEED program, because for that 18 months, I became the CEO of Mentors International. So I worked very closely with the SEED program in all of the countries that you saw up here earlier. So I know that program well. And I will tell you, if you're interested in a great experience, he already talked about it, where you can serve and you can give back and you can learn and you can develop. The SEED program is really a great program. So I'll give a plug for the SEED program. Beyond that, I love to ski. I'm a passionate skier. I've skied for 60 years and love to ski. As was mentioned, I've done 3 full Ironman triathlons. My next one is next year, so I'm going to do Ironman Switzerland in July of 26. So I still try to, here's what I figure. You got to be really, really good to qualify for the World Championships, like way better than me. But every year you get older, it's easier because more people drop out. So I figure that if I can keep going for another few years till I'm 70, maybe I can qualify because there'll only be 2 or 3 of us left doing it. So, and you can even see I wear Utah State gear when I've done that. So I've done a few Ironman, and I'm going to try to do a few more. And I love to hike mountains. I love to be in the mountains, and I love to climb. Where do I like to go? I like to go to Nepal. Nepal is my favorite country to hike and climb in. I've never done Everest. I don't have the time to do Everest because it takes a lot of time. But I've been to base camp a few times and hiked some of the peaks around there. And actually the best view in the world of Mount Everest is when you're standing above base camp on the mountain, sort of opposite of Everest, where you can look down at Everest base camp and then up at this just unbelievable mountain. Along the way, I've had some crazy experiences. As I've climbed, this happened to be the last time I was in Nepal, and I'm the sort of second one up there in the blue pants, and we're at about 19,000 feet elevation, so not super high, but high enough that you start getting kind of dizzy. And we're on a glacier here, and you're roped together. There's like 7 of you roped together, and you can see the speed with which we're moving, which is like a step, take 5 breaths, and a step, sort of take 5 breaths. But I got to the point where altitude sickness really sort of settled in on this particular climb that I was doing. And we were roped together. You sort of step across these crevasses. We didn't have to cross on ladders. They were only like 3 or 4 feet wide, so you could jump across. Which wasn't a big deal because you're roped in with 6 or 7 other guys. But we were getting to a point where there was a 1,000-foot head wall, and it was just straight vertical. And when you hit the head wall to go the last 1,000 feet, you had to unclip from everybody else, and you had 2 lines. You had a safety harness, and then you had an ascender that you used as a harness and onto the rope. And there were 20 different pitches that were like 50 feet each. And so you were supposed to do a pitch, undo your safety harness, put it onto another fixed line, switch your ascender over, and then go another 50 feet, and you do that 20 times. But I was in no condition to do. I felt physically fine to do it, but it was like I was having a conversation with 4 or 5 people, and I knew I was there, and I was in the conversation, but then it was this weirdest sort of experience when you're at altitude that high and you start getting altitude sickness. It was like I wasn't there at the same time. So finally, my son sort of tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Dad, you're out. You're tapping out. You can't go anymore." And he went on to climb that particular peak that we were doing that day. But I learned some pretty important lessons. By the way, that was our little base camp. That was like 2 a.m. in the morning as we got up to head up this peak. But the lessons were that your pace depends on the circumstances. I'm a guy that likes to get out and move and go really fast, but there are points in time where a slow pace is a fast pace. And so the pace that you go through, I'm going to say life, depends on the circumstances that you're facing. The other one is that you've got to rely on the strength of others. I'm stubborn enough that I would have tried to do the head wall. I felt physically fine, right? I knew I was safe because I was tethered in with other people. But there's a point in time where you rely on the trust and the strength of other people. And then finally, and this was a tough one for me, but it's okay to not reach the summit every single time. You don't have to reach the peak. It's okay to tap out and try again another day. So those were some good lessons that I learned in what I'm just sharing these my passions of my life. If I could only use one slide for an entire presentation, whether it's a slide to a group of students or whether it would be a group the size of Schreiber Partners, it would be. By the way, there's 10,000 employees. We call ourselves partners. And so when I refer to Schreiber Partners, I'm really talking about our 10,000 employees around the world. But this is the slide I would use because I talk all the time about where we are. Every day is day one. This is just day one right here. And there's a choice that you have to make every single day. From this day forward, am I okay with status quo? Or is there a possibility that's out there? And am I going for that possibility? And how do I get that possibility? And there's a few things that stand in the way. The things that stand in the way are history, number one. History is often said to be the best predictor of the future, right? I could ask someone, can you do something, maybe something really, really hard? The first thing that happens in your brain when you get asked to do something you've never done before is you think to yourself, geez, I've never done that. Have I ever? No, so I'm not sure I can do it. So history, your experience, limits what you think you can do because so often we're afraid to do something we've never done before. And then secondly, the resources that we have. It might be financial resources, it might be education, it might be family support, whatever you want to define as a resource. Our resources often put a limit. I don't have what it takes to get where I need to go. So therefore, these two limiters typically tell people to not go big, right? The challenge is to figure out, how do you turn the possibility into reality? How do you not let history and what you can or can't do historically determine what you can do in the future? And how do you not let your current situation, whatever your current situation is, how do you not let your current situation limit you and your potential? There was a speech by Roger Federer, who was a famous tennis player. He did a commencement address. I think it was at Dartmouth this last spring. I suspect, because it was out there all over in social media, I suspect many of you have seen it. I'm going to play a 60-second clip of that because there's a great lesson in that. Let's see.
In tennis, perfection is impossible. In the 1,526 singles matches I played in my career, I won almost 80% of those matches. Now, I have a question for you. What percentage of points do you think I won those matches? Only 54%. In other words, even top-ranked tennis players win barely more than half of the points they play. When you lose every second point on average, you learn not to dwell on every shot. You teach yourself to think, okay, I double faulted, it's only a point. Okay, I played to the net and I got passed again, it's only a point. Even a great shot, an overhead backhand smash that ends up on ESPN's top 10 playlist, that too is just a point. So here's why I'm telling you this. When you're playing a point, it has to be the most important thing in the world, and it is. But when it's behind you, it's behind you. This mindset is really crucial because it frees you to fully commit to the next point and the next point after that, with intensity, clarity, and focus.
All right. When you're playing a point, it should be the most important point, the most important thing you do, because it is. But when it's behind you, it's behind you. And when you understand that comment he made, it frees you to think about the next point and the point after that. What's my point? My point is that if you want to achieve your possibility, you have to put things that are behind you really, truly behind you. And you can't let those things become limiters in your life, right? Because it's over. It's behind you. There's nothing you can do about it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to share 10, I'll just say, pieces of advice. I have way more information than I have time. So I'm going to fast forward through some slides. When I get to number 10 and you see a list of 10 on there, you'll know that I have about 10 minutes left in the presentation. So I'm just setting expectations here, right? How long is this guy going to go, right? I will end on time. And when we get to the slide where there's like 10 bullet points, I'll be down to about 10 minutes left. Okay, so you can sort of gauge based on that. So, 10 pieces of advice for you in your career and your life. I'm going to start with the flag of Spain. The Spanish flag has a coat of arms. In that coat of arms, there are 2 pillars. They're known as the Pillars of Hercules. On those 2 pillars are the words plus ultra. The story doesn't necessarily begin there, though. If you go back into Greek mythology, Hercules was visiting an island on the western side of what's nowadays of Portugal, and he came upon a mountain. Instead of wanting to climb over this mountain, the myth says, he smashed the mountain and created 2 pillars, which is known as the Strait of Gibraltar. So there's 2 pillars there. On one side is Africa, on the other side is Spain. And it's said that there was written on those pillars these words, non plus ultra. The meaning of non plus ultra is no further beyond. And it was said to have been, at that point in time, the end of civilization as they knew it. And along comes King Charles V in the 16th century, the King of Spain, and he wanted to create an era of exploration with the Spanish people. And so he incorporated the pillars on the flag with the motto of plus ultra, which means further beyond. And ultimately, the Spaniards went on to be great explorers. Actually, on my shoes, on the back of one of my shoes, I've got plus. On the other back of my other one, it says ultra. I have always these little symbols around me to remind me of things that are important. So I actually have plus ultra on my shoes. So what's the point of this? The point of this, my advice number 1, dream big. I could spend an hour talking about the value of a big dream and the importance of that and of going further beyond, right? But just note that. Dream big in your life. Don't let history determine how big you dream. Don't let your resources determine how big you dream. That's the past, right? How do you dream big, right? Secondly, do you know your superpower? In fact, do you know that you have a superpower? And I can tell you that every single person in this room tonight has a superpower. You may not just know what it is, but once you understand what it is and understand how you can leverage that, then the more good that you can do, right? It's not only important to know your superpower, but what's the superpower of your friends, right? And of your family. And how do you leverage that? How do you find your superpower? So this is a picture of Palisades Reservoir up as you drive to Jackson Hole. I had an experience here many years ago where I took a group of young guys, scouts, floating the Snake River. And we were camping at the Palisades. And as we got there, there was a raft probably 50 yards out into the lake. And we decided we were going to go out to this raft and we were going to play king of the raft, right? Throw everybody off and just have a great time out there. There was one kid who didn't swim, but he wanted to be involved. And so as we all got out to the raft, he found a log, big log, and he used it as a flotation device. So he put his arms around it and he sort of paddled his way and he made his way out to the raft and he sat in the middle and we didn't throw him off. We just let him sit in the middle. And we were out there for a while, and then we decided, let's get back to the sands, to the beach, and let's race back. And I'm a pretty competitive guy, and I wasn't going to let a bunch of 12 and 13-year-old boys beat me back to the beach. And so 50 yards isn't a long ways unless you're just swimming as hard as you can. And I swam as hard as I could 50 yards. I laid down for a second. And I looked back out there, and what we hadn't realized is this log, which the kid had floated out there on, had floated away. And he didn't have a way back. But he decided, I think I can do this. I'm gonna try to make it back. So he got about 10 yards off of the raft, and I looked out there, and I saw him start to go under, panicking. And so I thought, well, I got to, get back out and help him. And so I swam back out as fast as I could. When I got 5 feet from him, he kind of, not that he went down, but he sort of went down just a couple of feet in the water, and I got him, and I started, the smart thing to do, candidly, would have been taking him to the raft so that I could rest a little bit. But I thought, I got to get him to shore. So I started bringing him to shore, and I got about 20 yards from the shore, and I couldn't go anymore. I was physically spent. I thought, if I try to get him the last 20 yards, we're both going to sink. So there was another leader there, and I said, you got to come and you got to help me. And the other leader came out and got him, and I sort of just paddled my way that last 20 yards. And as I got close to shore, the other kids on the shore started jumping up and down, hollering. I turned around, and the other leader wasn't strong enough to hold him up. And they were both going down. And so you do what you would all do. You sort of turn around, went back, was able to get him and get him back to the shore and pumped some water out of him, and everything was fine. That's not the moral of the story. The moral of the story is I really got thinking about life. I became that little kid's, his parents' hero. He was an adopted kid, their only child, and it really caused me to think about a couple of things. Number one is I didn't think I had the physical capacity to turn around and go anything to go back there. In fact, I didn't even think I had the physical capacity to get myself into shore. But when you need it the most, there's an extra gear that you all have. And that was the first time in my life that I realized that. That when your body says enough, when your body says enough, your brain sort of kicks in and says, stop. You got to stop. But you can override your brain because you have a physical capacity greater than what your brain will normally allow you to do. And so I learned that inside each one of us, there's an extra physical gear that we can go after if we need to. And there's a power there that will allow you to do that, right? And I really reflected a lot on that. And that became for me sort of a metaphor for what I ultimately determined was a superpower of mine. And it wasn't because I saved a kid that was my superpower, but it caused me to reflect. If you're going to figure out what your superpower is, go back through your life and think of experiences that you have had and reflect on those and what about those things make you who you are. And the sooner you figure out, the better. By the way, you don't have to figure it out tomorrow or the next day or the next day. But when you understand what your superpower is, you can leverage that. Many people go through life without understanding that they possess something inside and that there's a superpower. So my advice number 2 is that everyone has one. Find yours. Find your superpower because it matters and it matters a lot. Right? Walk the plank. If I had a 12-inch wide plank and set it across the length of this auditorium here and pulled a $100 bill out of my pocket and said, I'll give anybody this $100 bill if they'll come and just walk across this 12-inch plank. Who would be willing to do that? I'm kind of guessing most of you, right? I mean, it's not that hard. It's just on the stage here. What if I took that 12-inch plank and spread it across here, but it was 6 feet high, and I gave you the same $100 bill? Who'd be willing to do that? Probably most of you. What if that same 12-inch plank was between 2 skyscrapers, super high in the air, and I would give you the same $100 bill? Who'd be willing to do that? A few people. Usually it's Bears fans because they don't have much brains. So they would be the ones that might do that. And by the way, we'd push them off once they got up there. But what's the difference, right? It's a 12-inch plank. Why does height matter? It's the same plank, right? What's the difference? The difference is what you see. When the plank is on the level flat and on the ground, you see yourself walking across it. Right? You just see yourself walking across it. When it's 1,000 feet in the air, what do you see? You see yourself falling, right? The only difference is what you see. Do you see yourself walking across it, or do you see yourself falling? We all specialize in self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think you're going to fall, you will. If you think you're going to walk across it, you will, right? You will. Life is what you think. Your thoughts are the primary creative force in your life. You create your entire world by the way you think. That's kind of a powerful statement. You create your entire world by how you think. All of the people, the relationships, the circumstances, the situations in your life have only the meaning you give them by the way you think about them. And when you change your thinking, you can change a relationship, you can change your life, sometimes in a second. How you think matters. So expect success. Expect that you're going to walk across the plank every time. Expect that. Because if you expect that you're going to fall, you will. So in life, expect success. The Rock's got some good advice for us here. If I can get this to work here again.
So I am consistently asked, not only, especially around New Year's now, but throughout the year, Rock, what are the keys to success? What are the tenets, the pillars to success? What can you share? What are the secrets? Well, there's many tenets, many pillars. I don't consider them secrets because I keep them basic, but I'll share one thing with you that I think you guys might find really helpful and valuable as you step forward into 2023. And I know that this quote has really helped me over the years. I keep it very close with me. I keep it written down in many places. I have it in my office. And the quote is very simple, but sometimes the most anchoring narratives in our life that we need are oftentimes the most simplistic. The quote goes like this: one day or day one. One day or day one. So you think about it, what is that thing that we wanted to accomplish? That thing you wanted to accomplish, that thing that has been gnawing at your gut, that thing that you think you have some passion about, that you want to take a crack at, that thing that's been in your crosshairs, that thing I'm thinking about, I want to accomplish it, I think I'm going to be good at it, or who knows, I think I could make something of this particular thing. You know what? One day. I'll do it one day. Okay, that's up to you. Or, and I like this one better, day one. This is day one. This is day one. That thing I have in my crosshairs, that thing that I believe gets me out of bed, that thing that I run towards, that thing that I want to be passionate about, that thing I want to accomplish. Today is the first day. Today.
One day or day one, right? You can do a lot of things one day, but it takes discipline to say, no, today is day one. Today is when it starts. I mean, a lot of skiers in the room, I suspect. I don't know if anybody's been to Jackson Hole, Corbett's Clear. It's kind of straight off. You can sit on the edge and you can look over and you can look over, or you can just drop in, right? You can jump out of an airplane. The scariest part about jumping out of an airplane is when you're sort of sitting there and the door's open and your legs are dangling and you're ready to plunge. Go. But I can tell you, once you take the leap, it's not as scary as just sitting there. The scariest part of anything you do is right before you take the leap. Make the decision, and then you get scared, and then it's just, well, one day I'll do it. One day I'll do it. Right? That's the scariest part. Once you take the leap, it's not so bad anymore. Right? So is it one of life's biggest lessons, the value of time. By the time you're the age 32, you will all be billionaires. You will have all lived 1 billion seconds. The question is, how do you use time currency and leverage that into something of value? companies and individuals who are the most successful have figured out how to leverage time. So how do you leverage time into something that's of value to you? So there's time currency and there's relationship currency. There's time currency and there's real dollar currency, right? How do you leverage time currency into something that's super important? So number 4, just take action, right? A day one mentality, the value of time. I really do want to give away this $100 bill, by the way. Who said they wanted the $100 bill? How bad do you want the $100 bill? I want it. Yeah, what are you willing to do to get it? Anything. It's just right here. You almost both got $50. There's a lesson there. There's a lesson there. The lesson is this. Does everybody want success? If I said, who wants success? I do. And then you sit. Success is taking action. Sometimes uncomfortable action. Sometimes you're afraid to take it because, gosh, do I go up and just take it out of his hand? That's bold. What if that's the wrong move? Well, what if it's the right move? Right? What if you take the risk and make the move? Right? Lesson number 4, take action. When you see something you want, by the way, as you saw tonight, it's not the first person who has the idea. The first person who has the idea isn't always the one who creates the success with the idea. So the idea matters, but only if you take the appropriate action to get it. By the way, you owe him a dinner, I think, right? Okay. What's next? Dominoes. The dominoes. Anybody read the book, The One Thing? My chance, a few of you have read the book, The One Thing. The principle of the dominoes is that you can get a domino that's 2 inches tall, and if you put the next domino that's 1.5 times larger, so that would be 3 inches, and then the next domino 1.5 times larger, which would be 4.5 inches, a domino can knock over the next domino as long as it's no more than 1.5 times bigger than the first domino. If you do that and keep making every domino 50% larger, 1.5 times larger, you end up with, by the time it's the 31st domino, it would be the size of something above Mount Everest. And by the time it's the 57th domino, kind of hard to believe, that in 57 moves could get you from here to the moon. But do the math, and it'll happen. I actually experimented with this a couple years ago at an annual meeting that we had. And I had this little domino, which is actually less than 2 inches. And I wanted to knock over the great big one. Our focus as a company is growth and impact. How do we grow as people? How do we grow individually? How do we grow as a company? And at the same time, how do we make impact? I wanted to demonstrate to the organization that everybody just needs to understand this one little thing. And if you know your domino, and it's the right one, and then if you take the next step, and it's a little bit bigger, and you take the next step, it's a little bit bigger, you ultimately can crash down whatever it is that you're working on. So understand your priorities. Understand what your domino is. Right? Warren Buffett one time made this comment. His piece of advice was, write down all the things that you know you need to do. Take a sheet of paper and write down everything you know you need to do. It could be 100 things long. From that list, get a second piece of paper and write down 3 things. The 3 things that matter most from your first list. The 3 things you need to do most from your first list. And when you write those things down, burn your first list. Because anything after the first 3 is just a distraction. We get so caught up in all of these different things going on that we forget what matters most. So narrow your focus, right? As you go through life, narrow your focus. You can do anything you want to do, but you can't do everything. You have to decide what takes priority. So narrow your focus. Now you narrow your focus, everybody has a plan, right? You put a plan together, you know what you're going to do, and then reality sits in, right? The best laid plans are fraught with challenges. Always are, right? It's like a game of chutes and ladders, right? You're in this game where you're moving from space to space, and there's some spaces that are like a ladder that catapults you forward, and there's some spaces that you land on which take you backwards. So often in life, people stay in a space because they're afraid they're going to make a step that's going to take them backwards, right? I want to go forward, but there's a risk that I'm going to land on this space. I'm going to experiment. I'm going to try something. I'm going to try a new job. I'm going to try whatever it is. God, what if it's the wrong step? What if it takes me backwards? So therefore, I'm going to just stay status quo, right? Don't be that person. Be the person who is willing to step, to go backwards as you're trying to go forward, right? And be patient along the way. This is a Chinese bamboo tree. It takes years for it to grow. Years for it to grow. You plant the seed, you nourish. You get to the end of year 1, nothing. You nourish, you water, you do all the right stuff. You get to the end of year 2, nothing. In year 3, in year 4, in year 5, and finally in year 6, it grows 80 feet, right? Because you don't give up. And sort of the analogy of your kids. You'll be parents someday. Some of you probably maybe already are parents. But when your child starts to walk, you don't let them fall 10 times and say, you know what, maybe you should just give up. Don't ever learn to walk. You're terrible at it. You fell over and over. No, you keep encouraging them. And all of a sudden, one day, something miraculous happens. They go from crawling to just like they stand up and walk. You don't know how they did it because they've fallen 1,000 times. But that's how life works. Life works because you get back up over and over and over again, and you have patience in the process, right? You don't give up. So number 6, the best lessons come from failure. Embrace challenges, embrace risk, be patient, but don't be afraid to take moves and make steps in the right direction. Okay, I'm going to watch my time here because I don't want to run out. Orange juice. You know how you get orange juice? Squeeze an orange, right? When you squeeze an orange, you don't get apple juice, you don't get grape juice, you get orange juice. So what's the metaphor? In life, you're going to get squeezed a lot. When you get squeezed in life, what's going to come out is what's on the inside. It might be love, it might be anger, it might be hate, but you will get squeezed in life. When you do, your reaction will be what's on the inside. Same thing with the boat. It's not the water around the boat that sinks it. It's the water that gets on the inside. You can't control every circumstance that you're going to be in life. You won't control all the circumstances. But you can control what you let in so that when you get squeezed in life, the right stuff comes out. Be good on the inside. Just be good on the inside, right? I'm going to skip through these really fast and go right to do good. Just do good. I mean, I've got 40 T-shirts that say do good on them. You name the color, I got the T-shirt. I wear them all over the world as I'm traveling. I wear button up at the office, right? I don't wear these every day, but my grandkids sort of make fun of me because it's always, okay, what color's Papa going to have on today, right? With 100% certainty, I can tell you when I'm traveling to Madrid Sunday of this week, somewhere on that trip, 100% guarantee, someone in the TSA line or someone at a restaurant or someone somewhere is going to look at me and say, yeah, do good. Yeah, great shirt, love your shirt. Might be a flight attendant, might be someone on the flight. Inevitably, It puts a smile on someone's face and they go, yeah, we should do more good, right? Lesson in life, just do good. Do good. Be fun to be around. By the way, this is a picture from the SEED program, right? This is in Ghana. That's Joyce and her twin sister, Rejoice. And pretty creative names, I got it, right? But their smiles are infectious. Joyce and Rejoice. You know, happiness is contagious. It's absolutely contagious. Be contagious with your smile, with your laughter. You know, there's happiness myths out there. I'm going to be happy when I graduate, when I get my dream job, when I get my dream spouse, when I retire. Right? Those are all destinations. If you don't enjoy the journey, you're not going to be happy with the destination. Right? Someone said, no, I'll be happy when I'm a millionaire. And I said, no, not unless you enjoyed the ride to get there. If you were miserable while you were making your money, you're going to be a miserable millionaire, right? It's the journey that matters and matters most. Most of the time we're tired not because we did too much, it's because we didn't do enough to bring ourselves to life, right? Do things that bring you to life, right? Do things that make you come alive. So number 9, have fun and smile. And the last one, this is an experiment that happened many years ago. Some of you, I'm sure, have heard about this, but it was done in the Washington Metro. Violinist brings his case, sets it up, plays for 45 minutes. People came along. He collected a whopping $30, I think, over this period of time, packed his violin, got his money, and walked away. What they didn't realize that this guy's name was Joshua Bell. Joshua Bell is one of the most famous violinists in the world. 2 nights before, he had played with the Boston Philharmonic at a sold-out audience where the tickets cost hundreds of dollars. He played that morning in the subway station with the same $3.5 million Stradivarius violin that he had played 2 nights before. He played the same music in the subway that he played 2 nights before. And hundreds of people passed him by and didn't even pay attention, right? Pay attention to the little things, right? I talk about one thing and focus and all kinds of different things. Yes, and don't be so focused that you forget the little things in a relationship or the little things in life. By the way, there's a secondary lesson there. You all have value. Each one of you has immense value. Don't put yourself in places where people don't see your value. Don't put yourself in a substation. Put yourself up on stage. You have value. Don't surround yourself with people who don't see it. Okay, so that's a secondary lesson of that one. All right, there's the 10 things. I told you when we get to this point, we're 10 minutes left, so we're getting there. There are the 10 things that I talked about. If someone were to ask me which one of those things is number 1, if you could only give me one piece of advice, what would it be? I would tell you it's not any of those 10. If I could only give one piece of advice, that piece of advice would be this, which is to work on you every single day. Every single day, work on you. It's you, Inc. You're a business of one. And you have to ask yourself, are you either increasing or decreasing in value? If you were a stock, would people be buying or would they be selling based on what you're doing? Are you creating value every single day in your life? Right? Do the best you can until you know better, and always be seeking to know better. Right? And when you know better, do better. So work on you. It's this simple. It's not that simple, but it's this simple. Every single day. Every day. I don't care if it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, you can take 5 minutes. Everybody will say, I don't have time for 5. You don't have time not to do it. Every single day, do something to improve in an area of your life. Every day. Once a quarter, try something new, a new habit. It may stick, it may not stick, it doesn't matter. Try something different once a quarter. Not 10 things, because they're guaranteed to not stick. But if you try one thing, maybe it will. And if it doesn't work for you, try something else. Every 6 months, create moments, right? Life is a series of mostly forgettable events. You look back at life, and most days are just like any other day. You forget about them. But every once in a while, you have these highs and these lows. You don't have to worry about the lows. They come anyway. But you have to be intentional about the highs, right? How do you create these moments with those that you love the most that you can remember forever? So figure out ways to create memories. Every year, do something hard, something that scares you, if for no other reason than to prove to yourself that you can do hard things, right? Choose something that scares, public speaking, whatever, jumping out of an airplane, whatever it happens to be. If there's something that scares you, do something hard every year, if for no other reason than to prove to yourself that you can do hard things, because life is going to throw you a bunch of hard crap. And when it does, you can say to yourself, that's all right. I know I can do hard things. And then just serve others often, like a lot. So the future, now what? It's not about what you do in the future. It's not about what you do next year, 10 years from now. The future is now, right? The future is what you do today, right? In Ghana, there's this lore of this Sinkafa bird. And you'll notice that the feet are planted forward, but the neck is backwards, grabbing an egg. I talk about, don't rely on history. What this is about is actually going back to history and bringing forward from the past that which is good, and then planting your feet forward and going in the right direction. So yeah, go back and bring forward the things that are good from your past. A few quotes on climbing. I started with climbing. I'm going to end with climbing. So this is the Tetons. This the middle peak is the middle peak of the Tetons. And here's a quote: "The summit is what drives us, but the climb itself is what matters." I talked about that earlier, right? It's the journey. It's not the destination. Getting on top of the peak's awesome, right? But it's the journey along the way. You get closer to the top. That's the same middle peak of the Tetons right there. And another quote: "You've defeated me, but you won't defeat me again because you've grown all you can grow, but I'm still growing." That was Sir Edmund Hillary, who was the first person to ever climb Mount Everest. Right? And then you get a little bit closer to the top of the middle peak. And a quote that says, "Every mountain is within reach if we just keep climbing, like just one step at a time." And then another quote as you get near the very top: "An occasional glance towards the summit keeps the goal in mind, but many beautiful scenes are to be observed from each vantage point." And then finally, it's not the mountain we conquer, but it's ourselves. So I took these pictures a couple of years ago when we were driving along, looking up at the peak and saying, that's where we're going to be standing tomorrow. We're going to be standing on top of that peak. And then you walk, and every vantage point gets a little closer and a little closer until you're on the very, very top of the peak. And then from the top of the peak, you can see the trees and the water down here. That's the same trees and waters that you can see there. The view changes from the vantage point. The point of it is, I guess, that I want to make is that as you go throughout life, you're going to conquer a lot of things, right? But it's really all about who you become. Right? There's a lot of things about what we do. There's more about who we become. So it's about conquering yourselves. There's two of every one of you in here. There's your history. There's your past. There's who you have been to this point in time. And then there's your possibility. I'm just asking everybody to be a quitter. Just asking everybody to be a quitter. Quit doing stuff that's holding you back from being your possibility. If you're not achieving everything you want to achieve, it's because you're doing something that's holding you back. So quit. Quit doing stuff that's holding you back and go further beyond, right? Be your possibility. And I gave you 10 things here tonight to consider. I would tell you that someone else could stand up here and give you 10 completely different things. Everybody's perspective is a little bit different. Find your own perspective of what works for you. Success principles aren't a secret, right? They're out there and available for everybody, but you have to experiment a little bit. So try things that people say to see if they work for you. If they work, great. If they don't work, then don't do them anymore. Experiment with something else, right? That's how you find what possibility is all about. I said I'd be done at 7. Boom, 7 o'clock. So time for questions. Yes. Yeah, so have I had things in my life where I've had to quit? I will say this. I've had many things in my life that were failures. I mentioned this to a group earlier today. I don't like things that are just going perfectly smooth all the time. That's not where I thrive. When our business is going really well, I get bored, right? I don't like things to be going terrible. But when we're doing well, I like that. And when we're not doing so well, I'm okay with that as well, because it's in those moments that we learn the most. I've never, I don't know that I would ever say I really quit anything, but what I've done is I've failed at many things. And it's during those moments where I'll just say failure, even I've just had trials and hardships along the way. We were talking to a group earlier about a cyber event that we experienced at Schreiber Foods, where we were shut down globally for 4 days, right? When you go through things, you learn how to adjust, and you learn how to pivot, and you learn how to sort of come back up on top. And again, that's where you learn the most in life. So I'm never afraid of failure. I'm never afraid of taking risks. I thrive in that environment. So I'm not going to quit. I'm not a quitter, but I'm also not afraid of failure and learning the lessons from that. Yes, sir. Yeah, so did I have limiting beliefs? I always wanted to be a leader. I always wanted to be the CEO, and felt that I could, not in an I think an arrogant way, but in I always wanted to strive to do better and be better. So I tried to not put limits on my own beliefs, and I got that from my dad, right? I was a pretty small kid for my age, and it was always it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog sort of thing was the thing he told me every single day. And so I sort of grew up believing I got to have fight inside of me, and I got to believe that I can do big things. So I've always tried to dream super big. By the way, your dream should be big enough that you fail. If you have a dream and you accomplish it the very first time, that's a limiting belief. You weren't dreaming big enough. So you should have a dream big enough that your friends tell you you're crazy, that your parents tell you you're crazy, right? Don't be self-limiting in what you can do. So dream big, yeah. My job description day to day is the CEO. It's really interesting to be the CEO. I used to hear the phrase that it's lonely to be a CEO, and I never really sort of understood that until you become the CEO. And then you realize that not everybody has had the same experience or gets the same experience that you have. CEO is an interesting one because I'm responsible for everything and nothing at the same time. Right? So what do I mean by that? I'm responsible for everything in the company, but yet I'm surrounded by people who have responsibility for operations or sales or IT or whatever else it is. So all areas of the business have a leader. So I don't get the call on Friday night and Saturday night anymore unless it's a cyber attack. If I get a call on a Saturday night, it's not a good call, right? Because everybody else is going to get the call. So my job description is not to run the business day to day, is my point. My job description is to make sure that I set a strategic vision for the organization, and then I give every resource possible to allow the organization to excel and succeed, right? I have, because of my title, a little bit of influence, right? So if there's something slowing us down, then I should be the one that knocks down that roadblock and barrier. So I knock down barriers and roadblocks, set the strategic direction, and get the heck out of the way so the team can perform. Whew. 5 hands at once, yes. What's my next step? So I'm going to tell a little story about that real quick. I encourage everybody in our company to have a one word for the year. What's your one word that's your guiding principle for the year that you can just sort of ground yourself around? And as I travel around the world and people give me presentations, one of the first things they say is, hey, Ron, I'm going to share, this is my one word for the year and why I chose that. My word for this year, ironically, is the word next. And it's funny how you come upon the word, right? Many times it's the word ends up finding you versus you going out and trying to find the word. But what's next for me, as in beyond life at Schreiber Foods? So what's next? So what's next this year? I'm going to do a couple of 29029 events. At 29029, Mount Everest is 29,029 feet, so 29,029 feet tall. There's an event that's called the 29029 where you go to a ski resort. There's 7 of these events a year. They set up a base camp at the bottom. You hike up to the peak. You take the gondola down. You hike up, take the gondola down until you've climbed 29,000 feet, and you have 36 hours to do that. And so I'm going to do that at Whistler in August, and I'm going to do it at Aspen in October. And so those are I'll just say the physical things that I'm going to do next. I'm always planning and preparing something. Yeah. Yes. No, there's 5 more questions. No, I'm just kidding. So if I don't get to your question, I'll stick around as long as you want to ask questions. You'll just come up and ask me the question is when we get, yes. The question is how long to develop my leadership skills? It's a work in progress. I started working on them right out of school. I knew I wanted to be a leader. Leadership is like anything else, practice. I practice every day. And so I'm still a work in progress, and I would say I don't think you ever perfect leadership. When you think you've perfected leadership, then you're going to start going the wrong way. So, yeah, keep working at it. Yeah. Okay, if you have other questions, come on up and ask me. Okay.